Listen, it's going to burn. It's going to burn. But this is called punching your ticket to October, okay? Special teams do special things. And we got an opportunity to do something special. We ask a lot out of you guys all year. All year we've asked a lot out of you guys to do something for the guy next to you. And when I asked you in the middle of the season, remember I asked you, what kind of team do you want to be? I guess you wanted to be a playoff team.
Welcome to Days of Roar, our Detroit Tiger podcast, brought to you by the Detroit Free Press. My name is Mark Gorash. I am here with wet and beer-smelling Evan Petzold, straight from a celebratory Clinchmas celebration by the Detroit Tigers, who clinched a playoff berth in one of the most improbable runs in Major League Baseball history. Ev, you look a little wet and stinky there, but you got a big smile on your face.
What a night, Mark. Just what a night. I mean, I can't even believe it, right? Like, the Tigers were sellers at the trade deadline. They traded Jack Flaherty and Andrew Chafin and Mark Canha. And after August 10th, the Tigers were buried 8 games under 500, 10 games back in the wild card race with a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs. That was after August 10th. Less than 50 days later, the Tigers have punched their ticket to the postseason for the first time since 2014. The vibes were just incredible at Comerica Park, as you would expect. The fans were outstanding. The atmosphere was perfect. The Tigers are going to the playoffs, Mark. I mean, who would have thought? Like, who would have thought? Certainly not I. I know you didn't think either. Nobody believed that this was going to happen, except for maybe the Tigers. And Riley Green, quote, "We never stop believing," end quote. Like, that was Riley Green talking about this Tigers team and how they got from being where they were at the trade deadline, where they were on August 10th, to now being postseason bound. They are on the way. They have made it. I didn't see it coming. I know you didn't either, but like, what's your reaction to this?
Yes! Who doesn't like winning, Evan Petzold? Who does not like winning? And holy smokes, since the first week of August, there's been a whole lot of winning. There's been 11 losses, 31 victories. Who had that number? That had to be like a 250 to 1 odds at FanDuel. And if you want to start sponsoring the Days of Roar podcast and pay the Free Press a whole bunch of money, Gannett would be very much in favor of that. But yeah, just magical. Tonight, another example of magical. It's like teams somehow get sprinkled with pixie dust and weird stuff starts happening and wild pitches and all kinds of bizarre things. Triples get called doubles. It's karma like you've never seen before. Baseball karma. And let's be really blunt about it, though. A lot of great pitching and just a crazy amount of clutch hitting. I mean, yeah, there's some fluky stuff, but, you know, hitting grand slam home runs in San Diego off guys throwing 100 miles an hour, that's not fluky stuff. It's once in a lifetime stuff, but it ain't a fluky thing. So it's hard to describe. And I'm eager to see what happens in the playoffs, because who's playing better than the Detroit Tigers?
Nobody. And that's what makes this team really dangerous, is they're young and they shouldn't be here, but they're here. And they're playing better than anybody. And more importantly, they're pitching better than anybody, too. Like, this is not a pitching staff that you want to run into in the playoffs. The Tigers lead the big leagues in ERA. Going back to mid-August, they're up there top 5 in all of baseball for the entire season. You got a top-tier pitching staff comprised of openers and bulk relievers, and then it's all anchored by Tarek Skubal, who's going to win the American League Cy Young Award. Then you have guys that came back from injuries, like Riley Green and Kerry Carpenter, and you have increase in aggressiveness on the bases. Like, it's unbelievable. And then AJ Hinch pushing all the right buttons to set these players up for success. The Tigers are a really dangerous team. Like, they're a really dangerous team because they believe. And they've proven over and over and over again that they can win games. They can beat the Baltimore Orioles. They can beat the Kansas City Royals. They can beat the New York Yankees. Like, they've done it. And that's the point.
And they have.
Exactly. And that's what makes this team so dangerous, especially as we get into October. Anything can happen. And there's no team that I would want to play if I'm on the outside looking in. I do not want to be playing the Detroit Tigers. I'll tell you that.
I think it all starts with Tarek Skubal. Let's be really blunt about it. But on the position side, this resurgence all starts with Parker Meadows. I don't think we can call anything else what it is. Parker Meadows, the straw that stirred the drink, the flame that lit the fire. Yes, Riley Green has, like 28 RBIs in the last, 30 days. But Parker Meadows set them on fire, kept doing Parker Meadows things in so many different ways, jumping over walls, hitting grand slams, flaring singles to left field. Just, they don't call him Superman for nothing. And then it's just been a cast of characters beyond Parker, Tarek, and Riley, just all chipping in. Wenzel Perez and Colt Keith. The catcher's doing an amazing job behind the plate, leading the pitching staff. Tyler Holton not allowing a run in seemingly forever. And, don't forget Jason Foley. He had, I think, 20 out of 22 scoreless appearances. I mean, it's, Bo Brisky out of nowhere. Who had Bo Brisky on the dance card, Ev? Did you?
Everybody's getting it done. Like that's the thing that makes this team so special. And it's not just one guy. And I think that's the unique part about it, right? Like, yes, Tarek Skubal is in a category of his own, no doubt about it. Riley Green, when he's right, he's a special player. Kerry Carpenter, he can do special things. Parker Meadows, great player. But like, there isn't one superstar on this team. The way that AJ Hinch optimizes this roster to get the most out of it, the way that he pinch hits, even against, left-handed pitchers, like Kerry Carpenter is not going to start against left-handed starters, but he's going to be the first guy coming off the bench in a big moment when a right-handed reliever comes in. And AJ will play the matchups that way. Like, it's not just one guy. And I think that's what makes this team special. Everybody has bought in to the way of doing things. Like, it's not, hey, here's our set lineup and these are kind of our guys and the other guys are just going to ride the bench. Like, no, it's never been that way. It's been about the whole group. Everybody as a whole, and everyone's bought into that. Like, I think a perfect example is like when the Tigers won the other day on Justin Henry Malloy's sacrifice fly, right? That was like a big moment in the game. And when that happens, Justin Henry Malloy pinch hits for Kerry Carpenter. And Kerry Carpenter says, yeah, like, I trust J-Hen in that situation. And if the roles were reversed, J-Hen would be trusting Kerry Carpenter. And those guys are like always right on that top step cheering for the guy who's pinch hitting for them. Like, the guy who's getting pinch hit for is not hanging his head, walking back to the dugout, sulking. He's right there at the top step, cheering louder than anybody else. That's what this team has that's really special, is it's a collective buy-in from the entire group, and you got a manager who knows how to push the right buttons. That's what makes it fun. Like, Jason Foley does not have to pitch the ninth inning all the time. Like, Jason Foley is going to go and get his 3 outs whenever he's called upon. He doesn't need to pitch the ninth inning, right? He pitches the ninth inning a lot, but he doesn't expect to pitch the ninth. He'll take the ball whenever. And like that's just what makes this team special. Tyler Holton, opening games, closing games, taking down 2-3 innings in the middle of games. Like, it doesn't matter where you put these guys. They're going to get the job done because they have that collective buy-in. That's really special. And I think that's what makes this team different than most teams.
Well, look, I have nicknamed AJ Hinch the Puppet Master, and I did that very early on this year. I think during the first 5 games of the year. And, what can you say about AJ Hinch? The mantra has been the same since day one. Always explain to the guys how he wanted this team to play. Expect everybody to do their part. Expect only to win that day's game. Don't get ahead of yourself. And it's hard to think of a manager that's had more impact on a team. And, it's no coincidence that in some ways they were able to sustain this level of play because he is just a great manager.
Well, and Mark, he's been preaching it since the moment he got here. And I think that's what makes it special. Is it's not like, it suddenly changed when the Tigers went on this incredible run. Like, no, AJ Hinch from the day he was hired was talking about like winning the day. How do we win the day? And how do we stack wins? And how do we stack series? And how do we stack winning months? And ultimately then we're going to look at the end of the year and they're going to total up the wins. And if we've done enough of that, if we've won the day to win the series, to win the month, if we do that enough times, we're going to look back and we're going to be playing postseason baseball. And he's preached that all the way through. Like, let's not forget, like, this has been a grind for AJ Hinch as well. He got here for the 2021 season. So it was 2021, 2022, 2023, and now in 2024, finally reaping the rewards with an incredible run that his team has gone on. But it was all set up by this culture that he's instilled from day one. And the roster looks a lot different. Don't get me wrong. Go look at the 2021 roster compared to the 2024 roster. Looks completely different. But organizationally, he has set that same tone day in and day out from day one of his tenure. I'm really happy for AJ Hinch. Like, this is pretty awesome to see, especially for him coming full circle after what he had done in Houston, now coming here to Detroit and getting the job done here as well.
Ab, it's no coincidence that so many fingerprints of AJ Hinch are everywhere on how the org has changed. You know, the Chris Fetter, the Juan Nieves,
Robin Lund,
the Alex Cora coaching third base, or
Joey Cora.
Joey Cora, I'm sorry. Joey Cora, the base running, the, Lombard as the bench coach. But how about things like when you talk about Jahan has not had a hit since the 7th of September. And he went before he pinch hit for Kerry Carpenter last night. Okay. Matt Vierling, I think I tweeted this out today, had 28 walks on the season going into the month of September. He walked 11 times in the month of September. So when you talk about guys buying in, doing whatever was necessary, playing 3 positions sometimes in a game, multiple different players doing that. It's a truly unique team that has immense versatility that has just somehow refused to lose. I mean, how many games this week did they face really good pitching and eventually, whether the bullpen was abused by Tiger hitters or, they just fought back. I mean, whether it was Ryan Pepio, who really was really good before they got to him, or facing Garrett Crochet tonight, who, that's some of the most dynamic stuff in Major League Baseball from a left-hander. That is really, really difficult stuff. I mean, granted, he had some crazy, terrible defense behind him a little bit tonight, but they find ways to win. Just find ways to win. Weird kind of players. Zach McKinstry, after like 8 straight big league months of being terrible, all of a sudden in August is like a 1.3 WAR player, hits over 300, contributes all kinds of different things. I mean, guys at $1 million, they trade, Carson Kelly, they bring up Dylan Dingler. He barely I still think he only has like 7 or 8 hits on the season, but he's just been so strong defensively behind the plate. Trey Sweeney, what an impact he's had, and who had that? So just
nobody.
Crazy stuff.
Not me. I did not have Trey Sweeney contributing big time to a playoff team on my bingo card at the trade deadline. I don't think anybody did, but the Tigers obviously saw something that they liked. And sure enough, here we are. Trey Sweeney is the Tigers starting shortstop, going into October. You mentioned, the Tigers never quitting, never giving up. That is also a very important part of this team and why I think this team can be dangerous in October as well. The Tigers have played an MLB most 55 one-run games this year. They have a 31-24 record in those 55 one-run games. They've also won 13 of their last 15 one-run games. 13 of 15. That's really impressive. Like, down the stretch, big moments, big games, trying to get to the playoffs. They've come through in these close games. I think that says a lot about them. If they can keep doing that, it's hard to do that, by the way. It is really hard to continue to win one-run games at that clip because it's the big leagues and it's pretty much a toss-up at that point. But if they've got that will to win, wherever it comes from, if they've got that, and they're able to carry that over into a wild card series, and you got 3 games in a wild card series, and Tarik Skubal is starting game 1, so you feel like pretty good about your chances of winning game 1. And then you got games 2 and 3 to worry about, and you just got to steal a win there, and it's, I don't know, I like their chances. Like it's very fascinating because this is a team that we were writing off a long time ago, and then you see what they've been able to do, and now it's like, okay, like, yeah, the Tigers could make some noise in the playoffs. Like, I mean, whether they go and they play the Houston Astros or whether they play the Baltimore Orioles, it's going to be one of those 2 teams that they're going to play in the wild card round. I think the Astros are more dangerous than the Orioles, just based off of talent, specifically pitching. Like, I don't like the fact that the Houston Astros can roll out 2 left-handed starters in Framber Valdez and Yusei Kikuchi, and they've got a few lefty relievers in their bullpen. I think that's a tough matchup for the Tigers. I also don't like the Baltimore Orioles because there's a guy named Corbin Burns, and the last 2 times the Tigers have lost, were against Corbin Burns. I think that fact kind of puts into perspective what the Tigers have been doing as of late, winning 10 of their last 11. But yeah, it's going to be the Orioles or it's going to be the Astros, and you think, like, if the Tigers can just steal game 1, you really like their chances of winning a best of 3 series, and you like their chances of stealing game 1 with a guy like Tarik Skubal on the mound. Like, that is your Cy Young winner. That is your best pitcher in baseball. Arguably, again, you could throw Chris Sale into that conversation, but Tarik Skubal, that's best of the best going for you in game 1. You got to like your chances, right?
Hell yeah. Anytime Tarik Skubal takes the mound, you got to like your chances, and you got to like your chances with a bullpen that's throwing the way the Tigers bullpen is throwing. I mean, the Holton, Vest, Foley, Brisky, closing last 9 outs of games, and then you got Hannafy, who, Brennan Hannafy, where did that come from? Sean Gunther, where did that come from? I mean, holy smokes. So tip of the hat to everybody. Even guys I've hated on. Got a tip of your hat to everybody. Everybody's had a hand in the success of what's occurred here these last 42 games.
It's interesting you say tip your cap to everybody, and I want to tip the cap to Scott Harris as well, because you mentioned, like, where does Sean Gunther come from? Where does Brennan Hannafy come from? Those are guys that Scott Harris went out and got, whether it was by way of minor league deal, waiver claim. Like, I understand that those are small transactions, but the same goes for, like, Tyler Holton and Trey Sweeney. Like, let's not forget that Scott Harris acquired Trey Sweeney in the Jack Flaherty deal with Aaron Lorenzo. And Scott Harris went out and got these guys, and I think he deserves a lot of credit as well for what he has been able to build, especially on the pitching side of things. Like, if there's a reason why the Tigers pitching staff has been so good, both because, Scott Harris and AJ Hinch, they came up with the opener bulk reliever plan after the trade deadline when the Tigers were down to 2 starters, Tarik Skubal and Kader Montero. Scott Harris and AJ Hinch, they came up with the opener and bulk reliever plan that allowed the Tigers to survive, and not only survive, but also thrive. And then on top of that, you look at a guy like Sean Gunther. Scott Harris went out and got Sean Gunther when Sean Gunther was rehabbing from Tommy John surgery. And the moment that Sean Gunther joined the Tigers organization, they told him to throw a sinker. They said, start throwing a sinker. And then they changed his changeup and made it more like a splitter. But the fact that, like, they went out and got Sean Gunther off waivers from the Marlins, and the moment that they got him at the spring training facility in Lakeland, Florida, they said, throw a sinker. And that's Scott Harris. That is a Scott Harris move that is made. Because Scott Harris is responsible for going out and getting those players. Sure, there's our input from, like, tons of people, around the Tigers, right? Like, tons of different people are involved in these conversations. But ultimately, Scott Harris is the one who says, yep, let's go get him. So I think we got to give credit to Scott Harris for what he's been able to build. Even a guy like Matt Vierling. Like, I know, we've been down on Matt Vierling at times, but he's shown up as a real leader of this group. Matt Vierling is a leader. He played in the 2022 World Series with the Philadelphia Phillies, and he's been a leader for these Tigers. And that's just one example, right? Like, that was in the Gregory Soto trade. And when you look back on that, yeah, Matt Vierling, that was a pretty solid piece to get for Gregory Soto. So hat tip to Scott Harris, hat tip to AJ Hinch, hat tip to all the players, hat tip to the coaching staff, hat tip to, the people way behind the scenes who are working really, really hard, whether it's on their computers, whether it's hands-on instruction down in Lakeland, whether it's people down in the Dominican Summer League, right? Like, whoever it is, you've had a hand in this organization, hat tip to you. But man, you got to give a hat tip to Scott Harris for assembling this group of players. You do.
No doubt about. How about Brant Herter, 6-1 at 2.50 ERA after being recalled from Toledo? There are circumstances after circumstances after circumstances of those kinds of contribution. Herter, Sweeney, Salmons, Hanafi, Gunther. It's endless. It's endless. So, hat tip to everybody. 31-11, clinch a playoff berth Tuesday. It all begins. The fun all begins. We got 2 more games left. Hopefully, it'd be fun if they could win them both because, then at least it keeps the suspense of who they might play.
No, it does. It really does matter. It's a really big deal at this point. The Tigers, where the standings are at right now, they're going to play the Baltimore Orioles in the wild card series. The Tigers as the 5 seed, the Orioles as the 4 seed. Right now, the Kansas City Royals are the 6 seed. The Kansas City Royals lost on Friday, whereas the Tigers won on Friday. And so, yes, the Kansas City Royals have the tiebreaker over the Tigers if both those teams have the same record. But if the Royals win their last 2 games and the Tigers win their last 2 games, Tigers are going to be in that 5 seed playing against the Orioles, which would then set up a date with the New York Yankees in the ALDS, whereas the Kansas City Royals would have to play the Houston Astros, locked in as the number 3 seed, with the winner of that one moving on to play against the Cleveland Guardians. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, the last 2 games are really important. And if the Tigers are able to win out from here, they're going to be playing the Baltimore Orioles. If not, maybe they're going to end up playing against the Astros in Houston, but we're going to have to wait and see on that. But man, oh man, just what a night it was. And also, by the way, before we get out of here, man, hat tip to the fans too. They've really showed up and it's been a lot of fun. And then, man, getting in that clubhouse, that was something special. Whether it was, obviously the beer showers were incredible all the way around. But my favorite moment was the Chris Ilitch beer shower, actually, when Riley Green strapped the goggles on Chris Ilitch and brought him to the center of, all the players were obviously, they're all celebrating and they're all in there circled together. And Riley Green straps on the goggles and brings Chris Ilitch into the middle. And just the beer going all over Chris Ilitch, the team owner, was just awesome. And he raises his arms like a champion and everyone's going crazy. Riley said that he's always wanted to do that. And well, he was able to do it, getting Chris Ilitch in the middle of things. That was pretty awesome to see. And Scott Harris had a lot of fun with the guys too. It was just, Jason Benetti, right? Everybody who watched on TV saw the love that Jason Benetti got, Johnny Kane. Yeah, it was so cool, man. It was so cool. Tarek Skubal was having a great time. Riley Green was having a great time. Those guys, kind of like the heartbeats of the Tigers. But yeah, that Chris Ilitch scene was pretty sweet. That's one I'll probably never forget.
I also really liked Benetti did an interview with Chris Ilitch and his son Trevor, and it was just great, man. They got to share it as a family, and they were giving Trevor Ilitch a hard time about the fact supposedly he's been giving his dad a hard time about making sure the team gets more competitive. He denied it, but what kid wouldn't? So hat tip to Trevor Ilitch on that one. All right, it's time for Evan Petzold to go take a shower because I can smell him right through my microphone.
That's what Savannah said when I got home. She said, before you get into bed, you better take a shower. I said, honey, I got some work to do still, but I promise you I will get in the shower before getting into bed because, yeah, dude, I reek. I reek.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you had a great time and for everybody.
I haven't smelled like this since college, Mark.
Yeah, well, it's good to smell like that from college, especially on a Friday night. But is it just a little inside baseball? If you want to know what Mark Gorash texted Evan Petzold today, tell him what I texted you.
You texted me a couple of things. One of them was stay dry, have fun, and make a memory.
And that was it. Stay dry, have fun, make a memory. And
memories were
baby.
made. Memories were made. And now we got a lot more work to get done. So
yeah,
time to lock in.
Let's get out of here. Please like, rate, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to Days of Roar, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, one of the many different platforms you can find us. And every day, including tomorrow morning. You can find us within every Evan Petzold article at freep.com. We're going to put this out tonight. I'd like to thank Free Press editor Nicole Avery Nichols for letting us do a little Days of Roar Clinchmas edition. Robin Chan, thanks for staying up late, baby. Love to my grandson. Go take a shower so the beautiful Savannah Petzold lets you in the bed. Till Monday.
Peace.